Out of the Blue. Ep 5, The Mosaic Garden. This is a story about Frances, a white dove who enters a garden filled with scattered colors, sounds, signs, and seeming problems. When she stops searching for what is wrong and changes the purpose of her seeing, she discovers that what looked random was already part of a larger design. Frances landed in a garden unlike any she had seen. Blue stones, golden tiles, red flowers, tiny mirrors, wind chimes, painted arrows, words carved into benches. Everywhere she looked, something seemed to point somewhere else. At the entrance stood a sign, "The Mosaic Garden, please see the whole picture." Frances frowned. What whole picture? She hopped onto the path. One blue tile was cracked. There's a problem. A rosebush leaned across another path. Another problem. One wind chime was louder than the rest. That definitely needs adjusting. By the fountain, a gardener named Amara was trimming lavender. Frances fluttered beside her. This garden has issues. Amara smiled. Does it? The path is cracked. That bush is crooked. The chimes don't match. Amara looked around. What are you looking for? Frances blinked. The problems. Then you seem to be finding them. Frances paused. That answer was annoyingly efficient. She continued through the garden. A child ran past carrying a yellow kite. A bell rang somewhere beyond the wall. A man called, "Over here!" A flute melody drifted from a nearby window. A white feather floated across Frances' path. Random, she muttered. Then she remembered Amara's question. What am I looking for? Frances closed her eyes. Inside her mind, two voices seemed ready to debate. The first wanted to analyze everything. Why the bell? Why the feather? What does the kite mean? Which direction should I go? But deeper than the debate was something quiet. Not an argument, not an explanation, just a clear willingness. Let me see this differently. Frances opened her eyes. The yellow kite passed over a yellow gate she had not noticed. The flute melody came from beyond that gate. The man calling "over here" was helping an elderly woman find the same path. The floating feather landed beside a small sign. Look up, Frances laughed. All right. She looked up. High above the garden stood a blue observation tower. She flew toward it. Halfway there, she noticed something strange. The cracked blue tiles below were not scattered randomly. They formed a curved line. The red flowers continued it. Golden stones completed another section. Frances climbed higher. Suddenly, the entire garden changed. What had looked like unrelated pieces from the ground formed an enormous mosaic, a great open eye. At its center was the fountain. Around it, paths, flowers, stones, mirrors, and benches formed expanding circles of light. Frances hovered silently. Nothing had moved. Only her perspective had changed. Amara called from below. Any problems up there? Frances laughed. Much fewer. She landed on the observation rail. Now she understood why the crooked rosebush leaned where it did. Its red blossoms completed one curve of the mosaic. The loud wind chime marked the entrance to another path. Even the cracked tile reflected sunlight into one of the tiny mirrors. The garden had not become perfect because Frances corrected it. She had stopped requiring everything to prove it was wrong. Later, she returned to the ground. A visitor hurried toward her. I'm lost. Frances almost began diagnosing. Then she became still. A bell rang. A child pointed toward a blue archway. The flute melody started again from beyond it. The visitor noticed the arch. Oh, that's where I'm going. Frances smiled. Guidance had come through a bell, a child, a color, a sound. Not one of them needed to be supernatural. Their purpose changed when her attention changed. She began noticing how often life offered symbols. A conversation arrived at the exact moment a question softened. A song carried the words she needed. A stranger reached out. A sudden silence said more than advice. She did not have to turn every event into a fortune cookie from heaven. That would simply be another form of control. The point was not to decode the world obsessively. The point was to let spirit use what was already here. Before leaving, Frances returned to Amara. I thought trust meant trusting that everything would happen the way I wanted. Amara shook her head. That sounds exhausting. Frances nodded. I think I'm beginning to trust the one who sees more than I do. She looked toward the observation tower. From the ground, she could see only pieces again. But now she knew the pieces were not the whole view. Frances spread her wings. The world did not need to become a perfect arrangement of circumstances. It could become a classroom of symbols, a song, a glance, a feather, a cracked blue stone, Anything could serve a different purpose when she stopped asking the ego what it meant. Frances rose above the garden once more. Below her, the great mosaic appeared. Nothing missing, nothing outside the design. And from that higher seeing, what had seemed like a field full of problems became a vision made whole. May we sing, rest, and dance our way home together.